show. Always Irish show. Always Irish show. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. What are you doing? Don't do this to me, Harry! The Ohio State. It's Ohio State! What do you mean, the? It's a poison! I almost stroked out and died over it. I'm glad to be at the party. I'm mad we're this late. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship! That helps the defense without them even doing a damn thing! Doing a damn thing! The call-in line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. No Irish. No Irish. No Irish. No Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's right. That's you got. I can't even. I was going to say a joke about the eclipse, and then it went into my mind, and it was too funny for me to spit out. I blew the whole thing. I was going to say something like, that's right. Are you all ready to get your retinas blown out by this eclipse? Dude, it's kind of weird. It's really weird. In Illinois, Southern Illinois is directly in the path of the 100% Armageddon event. Darkness, everybody, darkness. It's wild. It's like tourism, eclipse tourism. I never knew it was a thing. These small towns in Southern Illinois, there's cars and people everywhere. I didn't realize people travel for an eclipse like that. Yeah, whatever. I guess, whatever. I just can't imagine me being like, I need to shape my next vacation on this eclipse and take off work and drive to Nowhereville, Illinois for 10 minutes or so. I don't get it. I don't know. And the animals act weird, whatever. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Put my shades on and go check it out? I guess we will. I guess we will. Steven, I'm blown away by it. There was a picture on Twitter. It was like a Southwest flight or something heading this way from somewhere. And they said on the intercom, who on this flight's going to the middle of nowhere to watch this eclipse? They all raised their hand. It's a big deal. God bless you. You're not hurting anybody. If you find that interesting or romantic, or if it makes you think end times are near, like there's all these conspiracy theories about it. It's just a wild niche-y thing. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. And if I blow my eyeballs out looking at this thing, I'll have to do the show in Braille or something. I don't know. It's just a wild thing. Man, I was a little surprised by the extent people are excited about that. All right, here's the deal. I have a very specific topic today, very specific. I've just spent the last day or so thinking about Notre Dame making a true run and what it would take, what improvements this team has to make, what needs to round into form, what needs to take a big jump, what do you need to get more efficient at? With that, or what position groups you're kind of worried about, whatever needs to step up. And I think I got 5 main items that these categories can kind of fall under. And so I want to go over those today and explain where my mind's at of like where these areas need to get a little better to get us where we want to go. So that's kind of going to be the plan. Happy to take calls. We got a couple already. Rodney, you'll come up right away. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on, and we'll go from there. Thank you for being here. Start your day here. Let's get into the introductions. Obviously, you can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps Yanni Boy out as well. Notifications on it where you alerted every time a new episode drops. I know you don't want to miss it. Twitter. Search bar, Always Irish, or at alwaysirishnd. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it even if you don't want to see my face. You can still hear the show. I don't blame you for that either. Instagram, Facebook, Always Irish Inc., USA Today, Irish Wire. You can read all about it there. Instagram, Facebook, Always Irish Inc., patreon.com/Always Irish, former captain, leading tackler Mike Goolsby, and myself breaking it all down. There's a lot going on there. Man, it's great. Sometimes we have the same result in mind and totally different ways to get to it. It's a beautiful thing over there, having us kind of agree on a lot of things, disagree on other things. He approaches things a certain way, like in his player experience brain, and I come at it from another angle, and then we meet somewhere in the middle and debate it and discuss it. It's a healthy thing, and it's good for me because I got a lot of football anxiety. So to be able to talk it out with somebody that's just as into it as I am every week, it's good for me. And by now, you're seeing on the screen, there's Tony's Lewski. He's bringing to the old tailgate event there. So we're going to christen a Lewski, my friends over at ndsubwayalumni.com. Good guys, Notre Dame guys, have a strong affinity for the Subway Alumni Network all over the country. Go get a t-shirt, get a Lewski for your next tailgate, whatever you want to do. They're good people over there. All right. So we got a couple calls. I want to see what they have in mind. There's a couple interesting chats. Let's go over some of those, and then we'll do a call, and then we'll get into my list. Also, I know on some of these morning shows, especially Monday, man, it's early in the morning. People are getting started with their work day. Like, it's usually a little bit of a slow start, kind of getting into the Monday. So I like to ease into it, maybe even tone down the Johnness a little bit to let people ease into their Monday morning. I totally realize for a lot of people, my voice isn't the first one they want to hear starting their work week. I totally get it. So I do try and, like, on a Monday, ease us into it a little bit here. So let's look at a couple of these chats. Oh, man. It's funny stuff. Ooh, that's philosophically tricky. Mikey Pulls, good morning, John. I'll tell you the key to the Irish making a playoff run that nobody else is talking about. They need to win every playoff game in order to make a run. Let's think about it. I have thought about it. I've thought about it a lot. And when I tell you that I want to go over a list of items of what it's gonna take for us to make a run, I need to define exactly what that means to me. We need to define our terms appropriately. So if I'm going to go down this path and talk about making a run, I have an argumentative, philosophical obligation to lay out exactly what a run means to me. Win more than one playoff game. Mikey, you're right that I love the way you think. I was thinking about it last night. I was putting together the notes for this show, trying to think of where I wanted to take it. And I thought it was really important that we hammer this down and nail exactly what I'm referencing. If I'm talking about a playoff run, that means to me you're winning more than one game. So you're not just like getting that a home game as the 5 seed, beating a lower level 10, and then you're done. No. So to me, making a run means you got to win more than one playoff game. So I'm talking about 2 wins or more. That to me is a run. Making the playoff and losing round 1, that's not a playoff run. There ain't no running. That's falling. Right? Making a run means you got to do something with it. A playoff run is not you made the field and then you're done after one game. That ain't a run. That's a trip. So for me, when I'm talking about playoff run, I mean winning more than one game in that playoff. That's a run. Anything else is an appearance and then a trip and a fall. So I want to be specific about my definitions here. So that's what I'm talking about. Very observant by you, Mikey. Rodney, I'm coming to you first. Hang tight in 1 minute when I get done with these chats. Mikey, In all seriousness, it's going to come down to the offense. Can our O-line win the battles? Can the QB make the plays needed to win? The skill positions will live and die by the O-line in the QB play. Ooh, that's interesting. Again, Mikey, we overlap on a lot of these philosophies of the way we approach football or look at it, because every single thing that you've mentioned here, every single thing you mentioned here is on my list somewhere. Everything. Very, very interesting. This was a big debate, something that came up Saturday too. I'm still not totally sold on the wide receiver room yet, but if anyone could get scheme guys open, it's going to be Denbrock. Yes, that is one of the biggest traits he brings here that was lacking. Having the vision to set up an offense, to put our players in position to have advantageous matchups that you could take advantage of. That is one of Denbrock's strengths, is being smart enough to put together a plan and know what matchups lead to what you need to be in to set up the matchups that you want, right? Like, it's all a big chess game. To get the matchup you want, you might have to run this set out there and have it look this way a couple times to set up the matchup you want down the road. Like, Mike Denbrock brings next level offensive analysis. Are you following me? Last year was so much. It always felt like we were behind the 8 ball. Like, there was no forward looking. It felt like it was such a struggle to run the offense, especially against any team with a defensive pulse. If you want to tell me we scored 900 points against Navy, we could do that all day. But against the good teams, it felt like just trying to run one play and make it work was too much to ask, let alone having a bigger scale plan down the road of pivots and what you want to go to later and baiting the defense to do something and then we do something else. We were not good enough at playing or coaching offense last year to get to that point. Just trying to find one play we could run and make work was hard enough in all those games, let alone a bigger picture plan with no panic, plenty of pivots when the defense wisens up to what we want to do, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Mike Denbrock is a matchup master. That is going to be one of the biggest strengths that this team's going to have now that it didn't have before. That is a strength of his, and we need it. Look at this. Commander Luke. I'm expecting some troll comment because that's usually all I get from Commander Luke. I'll be under anesthesia for this one, John, but I watched the playback. And if I come back, I want answers to the questions I've been asking about the QB situation. Thank you, sir. Commander number one is, all the trolling you do to me, I do hope you have a successful procedure. It just wouldn't be the same without you questioning every single one of my football thoughts every single day we're both alive. So that's number one. But yeah, I think what you should really do is, when you come out of anesthesia, you should give me a call when you're in the recovery room. And we'll debate some of my Notre Dame philosophies you disagree with. So right away, when you get out, the first thing you should do when you're woozy in recovery is give us a call here. We'll debate some philosophy. But for real, I do wish you luck with whatever you're having done. I do wish you luck on that. Jay Carr says, good show Saturday. Keep it rolling today. You know, the end of last week had some really entertaining live streams. Fridays was a riot. I don't know why. We had a bigger amount of people for the off season, more callers than we usually get. And I was dying laughing a couple of times. Some of you guys are hilarious. Especially whoever created the account, and it's called John Kennedy Swarbrick. And it's like a hybrid of me being weird and him being weird. Like, I don't know who would, that's a scary thought, but like, people were being hilarious. Oh boy. Thank you, John. I'm waiting to go under. I see only around 3 in 100,000 don't make it through this procedure. So there's that. Have a great show. A damn good show. Go Irish. Hey, I appreciate that. Commander, you better be here Wednesday morning or people are going to start wondering what happened with this procedure. So you can't drop off on us. You got to come back so we know you're all right. Yeah. Steven, one day closer to A&M, 35-10 ND, calling in now. I'm telling you what, man, it's so predictable. It's so predictable the way this is going to go. It's week one. Every week one game gets overblown. Every week one result gets overblown. It's the one thing every fan base is looking forward to all spring and all summer is getting to week one to have your team back. All the eyes are on that game because it's the first one, and it's going to totally set the emotional tone for the entire year. You could say that's over the top, that's irrational, you need to be in the playoff. All of that stuff's right. You have a little bigger margin for having a mistake or two and still making the field. All of that's true. Doesn't matter. In terms of the emotional needle of this year, whatever happens at A&M, win or loss, is going to dictate it. It just is. And here's the other problem with this. Here's the other problem. I say that this week one's going to be the big moving needle emotional thing. If you win it, I think no matter what it looks like, even if it looks rough, but you win it, you're going to leave with a lot of momentum. You're going to leave Texas with a ton of momentum getting this season going. On the flip side, if you lose that game week one, you don't have a chance for big game momentum for a long time after that. Are you following me? If you lose that game, nobody's going to care if you blast Northern Illinois after that. Nobody's going to care if you blast Miami, Ohio after that. Right? Like if you lose that first one, nobody's going to have that excitement for what comes next because you're going to beat those bad teams, but you already lost the game you needed. Like, it's just going to mess up the entire mood of everything. Win the game. It's going to mess up the mood of everything. And it's all going to be negativity. It's all going to be against Freeman. Like, I don't even want to go there. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but if you lose week one, nobody's going to get excited if you win the next game 60-0 because it's Northern Illinois. Like, you're killing all the momentum and all the vibes. You got to win that game. You just got to win that game. And I realize they have, it's an SEC team and they have some SEC athletes and everybody. Nobody's saying they don't. I know they have some fast SEC type kids. Here's the deal though. This is year one, game one of Mike Elko. Everybody knows he's a good coach. We all respect the hell out of him, but it's game one, week one. Notre Dame should be way further down the path of having all their stuff put together than A&M is. And if they're not, that's a big red flag. That's a big red flag. Everybody respects Mike Elko, but Notre Dame's so far further down the road of getting things with the new coach put together now. You're in year three, game one. He's at game one, year one. Those are not the same. Notre Dame needs to be further down this path. So that's where I'm at on that. Angela, good morning. Missed Saturday. We had some people over. Did I miss the Florida stories? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. $2 holler from Rodney. Total eclipse equals Armageddon during the call-in. Bro, I don't understand it, but I'm seeing there's like conspiracy theories about what this eclipse means. Is it like the beginning of a rapture? And then there's people saying the government are doing things during the eclipse. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to expect, but I'm in Illinois. I'm not that far south where it's like the full path over or whatever. But I guess I'll go outside and see what happens. I'm going to come back the next day looking like Stevie Wonder, something blowing out my eyeballs. I don't know. Dr. John. Rodney, thanks for the $2 holler. Good morning, John. Great win for Irish lacrosse yesterday, 15-12 over Duke. Yes, Virginia, there are other sports at Notre Dame. I know there's other sports in Notre Dame. None of them move my needle, though. Like, I get it, and I support all those teams and everything in women's basketball. It's fun to watch. I'm with you on all these teams. The fencing team is good on guard. All of it. I love all that. None of it moves the needle. There's only one thing that moves the needle at Notre Dame in the big picture, and it ain't swordsmanship. I don't know why that's funny to me. I love the idea of fencing. It's so like regal. It's just, I challenge you to a duel on guard. There's something piratey about it. Like, I love it. Like, I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. The fencing thing's funny to me. And the outfits they wear looks like a beekeeper's outfit with the little mask and you're on guard. Ding. And I just like it. I just think it's a funny sport. Oh, man. Holtz, my beer. Good morning, Jay Carr. What's going on? Oh, Jay Carr, why you got to bring that up? Here's a $5 holler. Mount Vernon, Illinois slam right now. Tim Jones, good to see you. Yeah, I didn't realize what a niche tourism industry Eclipse following is. I'm not judging it. They're not hurting anybody. There's a lot of other hobbies people have that hurt people. I'm not judging it. I just didn't realize it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing, but whatever. $5 holler from Phil, the Philly special. Morning, John. I want to hear more stories. You should have a special episode with Pat and have Angela call in. Call it Saturday Night Story Time. Phil, you're going to get a bunch of people in trouble coming up with an idea like this. You really are. You need to be careful what you ask for, Phil. You're going to spark some stories here that should not ever hear the light of day again after they happen. Me and Pat and Angela, we got like 20 years going on this thing here. There's a lot of life built up there, and we were really young and immature for a lot of it. It was fun though. Brian, what's going on? Prime, get some shades. Oh, they're trying to explain. Yeah, you can't ask John or Phil. Yeah, she says, yeah, that sounds fun, but you can't ask John or Pat for stories about me. Yeah, exactly. This all cuts both ways. Oh, Liam, what's going on, man? I haven't talked to you in a while. Thanks for the $7 holler. Happy Monday, John. I hope you're doing well. Very nice message. Good to see you there. I see you guys are putting out a lot of content and a lot of stories there. Good job there. Keep going. I appreciate it. Liam stopped by the tailgate for Central. He was going to the, press box, doing all that stuff, came by and checked in first thing in the morning. Man, I just love people that want to make covering Notre Dame their thing. It's a beautiful thing. That's what I want to do. I love all these people that want to make that a part of their thing. I really do. John, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Don't ease into anything. There you go. Johnny Action. Irish backups are much better than FSU in 23. Telling you what, November 9th? Oh, that should be. If November 9th isn't a big moment in Notre Dame Stadium, something's gone horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. Like, I have Louisville circled as that first kind of situation at home. You need to get to November 9th, and there needs to be playoff implications on the line for at least one team, and it ain't them. It ain't the Fighting Bowdens. It ain't. It's got to be us. That November 9th needs to be Notre Dame. That needs to be Notre Dame's moment to position itself in this playoff. Anything other than that means a whole bunch of horrible stuff's happened, and I ain't here for it. Bro, I can't do it. I'm not here for it. That needs to be a big weekend for Notre Dame. That needs to be, I am cementing my playoff position on November 9th at home. Bob says, O-line and linebacker are my concerns. Both talented but young. How will they play when the lights are on? Yep. And Bob, I got this. I asked the question in my title of the video or the stream. You guys are answering, and you're with me. Everything you're mentioning is on my list. So I'm going to get into the details. How about make the playoffs first? A part of this is, think about it. If I'm asking how you're going to be able to make a run, the same way you make a run is how you get in the playoff. There's no difference. The same traits this team's going to need to make a run is what's going to propel them in the playoff. It's not like I have a different standard for the regular season and then a different one for the playoff. You're going to need to do all the things on my list to get into that position is what I'm saying. A successful run is hosting a home game versus the best group of 5 since you can't get a bye. That's not a run. I disagree with this. I do not count what you just said as a run. You're saying just making the playoff is a run. That's not a run. That's you made it and fell over. So I disagree. That's not a run. A playoff run means you got to win more than one game, not just making it a run. Boy, what do I know, though? Crying Belly's back. I'm really hyped for ND's next 3-star recruit. I'm so excited with joy at the mere thought. The Freeman era hype trade. I can always count on you, Crying, to ruin the vibe on a Monday morning. Listen, I want to recruit all 4 and 5-star guys too. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I want to recruit all 4 and 5-star guys too. Did I hope in my mind that it would be easier for Notre Dame to land more 4 and 5-star guys than it's proven to be down the road? Yes, I do. What if Notre Dame does what I'm asking and makes a CFP run? How much easier does it get to have the attention of the 4 and 5-star guys? Maybe you think that matters a lot. Maybe you think it doesn't at all. I don't know. Mike says, I know you say you're okay with not getting a bye, but the rest of college football world's laughing. This is not how you get respect. Well, what are your options then, Mike? What are your options? This is not how you get respect. Do you get respect by totally folding on independence and joining the Big Ten? Does that get you respect? Totally giving up who you were, but admitting you have no chance in this new format, so you got to become what they are? That gives you respect. We got to be real about the options. The rest of the college football world's laughing. This is not how you get respect. You got to answer me. How do you get respect then? Not even trying to make the new CFP work as an independent and totally giving up your identity to join the Big Ten? I mean, maybe the conference people would argue that's how you get respect because you're on the same level as them or whatever, but that doesn't feel like it to me. That feels like you're caving on who you are and what you are because you don't think you can make it this way. So I don't know. I struggle with that. Natty season? I hope so. Holtz my beer. ND's absolutely a playoff team, assuming Leonard stays healthy. He's a plug-and-play fit for Denbrock's offense. If he stays healthy, I think Notre Dame will have a good run. Man, there's a lot of meat on that bone. And what's the development like now that he's, not fully in practice and all that, and now it's all coming together? It's down pat. Last year was maddening to watch the offense. It was a struggle, and everybody knew it was a struggle. You could see Parker drowning. Freeman's not an offensive guy, so that isn't like his most comfortable place to pop in and start running. You could see the struggle happening in live time. You could see the struggle happening in live time to just call a play. Unbelievable. Such a low offensive bar set by Freeman and Parker. Denbrock brings a legit offensive mentality. I see it that way too. He's got to make it work with all the pieces here. That's the big thing. The vision, I have full confidence in his ability to see what he wants to do. Making it work with our talent and getting the most out of whatever that group's capable of is a big part of this. It's a big part. Jay Lehman, what's going on? Ready for the 20th. Yeah, Dennis, this is a fair point. You guys don't have Jaden, Malik, Brian, and you can't get guys with that type of talent. Well, I don't want Brian. If it's Brian Kelly, I'm not interested in that. I had that for over a decade, and the biggest thing we won was the Camping World Bowl. I don't need to go back there. But yeah, I'm not acting like you have Jaden Daniels all ready to go there at Notre Dame's quarterback and Malik Neighbors to throw to. That's a big part of this, Denbrock. That's why you're making that money, is to be able to piece together Notre Dame's talent and make it work. Oh, boy. Yeah, Johnny, I know. They're trolls. I get it. Yeah, crying. You're 100% right. Rodney, I'm coming to you. If Indy loses to A&M, it says way more about Indy and Free Pass than it does A&M. Yes, I agree with that. Luckily, we have excuses built in for that loss already. I don't. I just got done saying, even before I saw your comment, Notre Dame's on 3 years of rebuilding and with the new coach and a new philosophy and a new everything. They're starting year 3. Elko is year 1, game 1. If ever there's a time for Notre Dame to be further down the road than one of these teams in a big game moment, this is it, and it needs to be it. It needs to be it. Now's the time. Playing A&M, if you're going to do it like this, you may as well get year 1, week 1. In my opinion, that's the most vulnerable a Mike Elko team's ever going to be, is year 1, week 1. Because he's a good coach. The longer he has with his guys, they're going to get better. And their program's going to be in a much better shape 1 year later when they come to Notre Dame Stadium to open the year. The difference is it's at our place. So you're gonna have that comfort that it's going to be in South Bend and not down in Texas. But they should be in a way better place. So you better get it while the getting's good. And that's now. That's now. Oh boy. Jay, my biggest complaint about last year's play calling was the misuse of the running backs, in particular Estime. I think, Jay, I felt like they got too cute. And they wanted to have a rotation. And they wanted everybody to get this many snaps. And this guy in this situation, that snap and whatever. And you liked what you had in all those backs. But when you don't let any of them cook enough to get greased up and get going into the flow, that's frustrating to me. So I don't know. Dude, you're trolling way too hard on a Monday morning. It's not even going to work. I'm the Ohio State troll. Give me a break. John was on here letting that one caller talk about his team for months. And the day after the loss, who's the real Ohio State fan? Yeah. You want me to become what you all rip in the other Notre Dame shows. That's what it sounds like, crying. You got to pick a lane. So on one hand, people like that I'm one of the only shows that doesn't just delete and block everybody who ever disagrees with me. And if you make fun of me, I block you. If you disagree with my point, I block you. You're gone. If you say something smart ass, you're gone. I'm one of the only ones that doesn't do that in here. And what that means is you have other fan bases that get in the mix. So you can't have it both ways. Credit me for not blocking everybody and then tell me I have to block people. The Ohio State guys that call this show are nice guys. They're pretty fair to Notre Dame. I wouldn't have anybody on that wasn't fair to Notre Dame. Johnny Action, not feeding Estime late versus OSU should be considered a felony. 100%. 100%. It is one of the things I'll never get over. It's one of the things I'll never get over about that Ohio State situation. I will never get over it. You were in a position where Estime could have just ran out the clock and won the game for you. And it was the most simple answer, the most simple formula. And in that final offensive drive on first down, he ran the ball right at Ohio State for an 11-yard first down, and then you take him out of the game and you don't put him in again. You're fired. Like, Parker, that was it. You're done. Like, you're done. Estime was put on God's green earth with that frame to run the ball at the end of the game against Ohio State with everything on the line. Like, literally, God made Estime's body for that moment, for Notre Dame to give him the ball, for him to run it against Ohio State and run out the clock and either win the game or at least make them blow all their timeouts and then kick it to them and they have way less time to get down the field. That was Audric Estime's moment, and it got taken away from him, and I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. In fact, I wonder if Estime had a discussion with Freeman and those guys. I would be livid if I was Estime with that body, with that singular purpose in life. That was his moment, and he didn't get a chance to bring it home, and I'll never, ever forgive it or get over it. And the other part of it is those plays didn't even have to be successful plays for this all to be different. That's the other thing. I want people to understand what I'm telling you here. Even if after that 1st and 11 run, if you said we're going to hand it to Estime 3 more times, no matter what Ohio State does, I don't care if it's a brick wall, right? That we're running it with Estime 3 more times. Even if you gain no yards, that is helping the odds of Notre Dame winning just by the clock running and or them burning their timeouts. Those plays didn't even have to be successful to increase Notre Dame's chances of winning the game. That is a key part of this. The plays didn't even have to be for plus yardage. You were running out the clock and making them burn timeouts. It was his time to shine. Why God put him in that body frame was to be in Ohio, to play Ohio State in that moment. It got taken away from him. Oh my gosh. I'll never get over it. I will never get over it. Fencing. People like fencing. There you go, man. Hey, I'm fine with fencing. The fencing team dynasty is a financial windfall. Forget football. Give me that Zorro. On guard. Oh boy. Big day tomorrow. Looking forward to changing the college football podcast world, the Ohio podcast. You're right about that. And I'm going to do my part to try and help in that mission. That's what we're going to do. So we have some fun stuff coming up with that. Look at this. Jerry Reinsdorf's burner. Any chance you could set up an Always Irish meetup at a White Sox game? For some unexplainable reason, our attendance is low. We need ticket sales. Oh my word. They are 1-8. They are 1-8 with their lowest offensive output at this point in the year in 100 years. That's how things are going. All their best players are on the injured list already. They have like 2 or 3 players that are worth seeing, and they're already injured. It is you know, like fun bad. You ever hear people talk about fun bad? Like your team's so non-competitive, you're beyond mad and you just laugh at it. That's where we're at. Took 1 week. 1 week of baseball, we're already at fun bad, where there's no competitive, nothing. You just watch, see how bad it's going to get. And I've told all my friends that I get Sox tickets from, free tickets, don't even bother. I'm not going. I don't care if it's free. I don't care if it's in a suite. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Okay. What else do we have here? Oh boy. I don't even want to think about some of this stuff. All right. I need to quit looking at that chat. Rodney, what's going on? Good morning, man. How are you? Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Armageddon Day, John.
It's kind of wild, man. I just didn't realize what a touristy niche that is. I'm dumbfounded by the amount of people traveling a large distance for this. But God bless him, man. If that interests you, go for it. It's just never something I would think to do.
Well, it's funny because about 2 weeks ago, I didn't think. I mean, I saw glasses being sold at Walmart and things like that, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal either. But boy, over the last few days, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about it, and I think a lot of that is hyping this up too. A lot of these YouTubers that are making posts about things that can happen to our infrastructure, with cell phones and all this stuff, and Bible scriptures and whatnot. I mean, I think that's gotten people excited. Also, astronomy events. I think a lot of this too, John, is in line with the Webb telescope recently sent us back a bunch of amazing photos that we didn't even get from our Hubble telescope. And I think there's an astronomy craze kind of happening right now with all the UFO stuff and all this. I think it's kind of all coalescing with this event. So I think that has a lot to do with it, just all the momentum. Okay, let's get off of that. The Notre Dame football now. Anyway, it's funny, like there's two things that are so overblown in my estimation, and they kind of, one, and they bookend each other, because one is this opening game, right? Opening game of the year against A&M, and also the bye, the not having a bye for the playoffs. Right? And I think I've talked about that ad nauseum. First of all, John, a lot of times, okay, you said Elko's in his first game. Freeman's been in it for 3 years. But remember, a couple of years ago, Freeman took Notre Dame into Ohio State and had a lead for 3 quarters against a Ryan Day team that was more talented. And he's been coaching there for, I think at that point, 3 years. I think that was his 4th year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe longer. So sometimes that initial game that a coach coaches, their first, especially someone with the pedigree of Mike Elko, that can sometimes, that very first thing can give it, there's almost enough momentum and enough excitement that can sometimes motivate those players initially to play at a much higher level than maybe what they will when things come down to earth for a little bit until he gets it going again. I would not be a bit surprised if that game comes down to the last play. I'm not, John, I'm already preparing myself. Not that I think Notre Dame's going to lose that game. But if they do, it would not in the least bit surprise me. And then it wouldn't be in the least bit surprising to see Notre Dame go on a run after that, beat Florida State. But for sure, they lose that game, it's going to be so overblown. And Texas A&M is going to be so risen, in the polls, and Notre Dame's going to fall, and they got no chance now. And we've seen this happen before, even already in Freeman's tenure, with Notre Dame losing game, and then kind of being doubted, and then going on a run afterwards. When they lost against Marshall and Stanford, and then they got things together again. When they lost that Ohio State game, he was able to bring them back. Well, really after Louisville, that was one that. But anyway, point is that Freeman's had adversity before, and while I'm thinking Notre Dame should win that game, all the things that are aligning at the same time that opening week, Texas A&M is going to come in that game a lot more. It's going to be a little bit of unless Notre Dame does win 35-10, obviously, and takes it to them, that'll make us all very happy. But it just wouldn't surprise me if that game makes Texas A&M look better than they actually are and Notre Dame worse than they actually are going to be. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. It just wouldn't surprise me. I'm just trying to prepare Notre Dame fans for the fact that don't get – as big as that game is, don't be a bit surprised if that happens. I'm trying to prepare myself for
it. Nobody's here for that. Nobody wants.
I know that. I know, John. No, I know. No one's here for it.
Oh, nobody's here for
reality,
that.
And if that happens, we're going to have to, we're going to have to.
Well, now wait.
Entrench ourselves in that reality.
Okay, now wait. Why are you saying that you think there's a possibility, like a realistic chance of that being the case? Is it because it's home, or is it because you think like they're going to have the mindset of this is all new and we're in a better position, let's go crazy tonight? Like what is it that makes you think we could end up looking worse than we are and them better in that moment? Is it basically that it's a home game? Because you can't deny Notre Dame's on year 3 of their rebuild. They should be way further down that road than Elko in week 1, year 1, right?
No question. Like I said, John, and a lot of times we've seen this in college football. We've seen it with Notre Dame. We saw it under Charlie Weiss. Now that was, that was a little bit more macrocosm because, it wasn't just game 1. It was like season 1 and season 2, and then they came back down to earth the next 3 seasons. But that initial energy of a new coach taking over, one that's very well respected. I just wouldn't, and Notre Dame comes to town and all the college football world's talking about it. That initial, and then let's just say, like I said, I do agree with you to some degree. I think it was you that mentioned it, that the heat is a little overblown too, because it's already going to be really, really hot in August in South Bend anyway. So is it going to be that much different? And yeah, it'd be that much different in Texas a month or 2 from then, sure. But that time of the year when, it's drier in Texas, but it's more humid in Indiana, is the actual feel of the temperature going to be that much different? I kind of agree on that one. I don't think that makes a big difference for that game. But just the fact that it's Mike Elko's inaugural appearance at home, it just wouldn't surprise me, John. I'm not saying I'm predicting a loss. Of course, when we get to that game, depending on if there's any major injuries or whatever, but assuming everything is equal, and Leonard starting or Angeli starting because he won the job, or Minchie or whoever, I'm taking Notre Dame. But I'm taking Notre Dame in a really close game, just because I think in other words, whatever happens that game, I don't think is going to be representative of who these 2 teams actually are. Is that fair? I really don't. I don't think that first game is going to be representative of either where Notre Dame is or where Texas A&M is. But it's going to seem that way in the pathos of college football. So, look, I hope Notre Dame wins 35-10 and shuts me up. You know what I mean? Completely shuts me up.
Yeah. It
just wouldn't surprise me that it would be that we'd have adversity again that early and then go on this run where he wins 6-7 games in a row, but no one's really talking about it.
Yeah, Rodney, it would be more of the same that we've all lived with and hated for like 15, 20 years. Like, something's got to change Notre Dame's outcome.
Does that matter, though, John? If we get to the playoffs, get a home game, and then win the home game, will that really matter then?
No, but the problem is, if you lose that game, there is going to be no belief that you're going to end up in that position. If I'm talking to you in January, if we book a playoff appearance, John, then when I'm in December, I'm not going to be as mad about losing to A&M week 1. But you can't provide this fan base that comfort in that moment in the rest of the actual year. Like, we're missing that huge window of everything in between that's going to be tainted negatively by dropping yet another big game, big TV opportunity for Notre Dame in the bright lights. I'm so sick of it. Change the narrative. And
John, listen. I'm with you.
Win big games. Win big games. Win your big games sometime. Win. Just win. I'm sick of the excuses. I'm sick of the heartbreak. I'm sick of the bad luck. Win your biggest games. This is Notre Dame. Used to be anyways.
Well, again, like I said, John, whatever happens in that game, even if we win 40-3, I don't think that's going to be as indicative of where Notre Dame is either. It will seem that way. Again, it will seem that way. We'll all be flying high. Look, man, I know we played 4 teams that were not great last year. I get that, but boy, we were thinking we were ready for Ohio State. And to some degree, we were ready for Ohio State.
I know.
We just screwed it up in the last.
Rodney, were. You're right. We were ready. And that makes me even more upset we didn't finish it because Notre Dame did come prepared. They were ready to play the game.
John, that last drive, did you not did you not at one point think to yourself, this is almost like how, Marshawn Lynch must have felt walking off the field when Pete Carroll decides to throw the ball in the end zone? And I heard the whole thing. He was talking about how he laughed at him in his face when the game ended.
Hey, you know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that? I'm going to make this connection. You mentioned how Lynch would have felt and like with Pete Carroll and that decision. It's funny because my mind went to Pete Carroll in those moments. When Notre Dame started making mistakes with their play calling and what they were doing at the end, I started thinking push. Like every little thing, I'm thinking, I know what this looks like. I've been here before, and this is it. And then every play that didn't do what I needed it to, I'm going, no, don't do this to me again. Don't do it again. And sure enough, it happened again.
I know. And I know. I mean, dude, it's just too logical to make any sense. It's like, Esme runs for 11 yards in the play before.
You're out. Anyway, you're out of the game. You're out of the game.
We got a real life offensive coordinator now. Let's just look at that.
Yeah.
We have a real life offensive coordinator now who knows football. So
that's a good point.
I'm just gonna, but I was thinking of this, John. I don't think this has been talked about enough. Mike Elko, we played Duke last year. We saw that game. He gave us everything we could handle. And it took probably Hartman's best play of the year, to be honest with you. I mean, he showed a lot of heart in that play. Give him that. To win that game. And then, of course, it was Estimate who carried on for us. But, I mean, have we not thought about the fact that it's Riley Leonard, assuming it's Riley Leonard, who knows Riley Leonard, who knows how to draw up plays to defend Riley Leonard better than Mike Elko?
Yep.
Yeah. That's another thing I'm a little concerned about.
Rodney, it's so the note, I'm on record 8 years of doing this show or whatever saying there's always something extra whenever Notre Dame's involved. Now you got a Notre Dame quarterback situation where there's injury concerns started by Notre Dame. Yeah. Notre Dame's the one who jumps. Notre Dame's the one who jump started the injury concern that wasn't their problem, but it is now. And then even if the guy's ankle is in one place, the guy who knows more than anybody else in America, there's one person in America that knows Riley Leonard's game and how to defend it best, and it's the guy we're playing week one. What are the odds? It's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame.
If you want to take the optimistic approach on that, you could say, well, who knows Mike Elko's defense is better than Riley Leonard?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting, man.
That's true, dude.
It's going to be really interesting.
That's a really interesting point. I wonder if Riley Leonard can go up and it can – I don't know, man. I just – Mike Denbrock, I believe he has a better vision for all this. And I think you're going to see a real difference. This guy's the real deal. He's been around the block. Nothing throws him off. Like, he's seen it all. He's been in those fires. I need that guy to scheme some stuff up, man. I need it.
and he could be the X factor. And that's why, listen, I'm just trying to look, we're going to be miserable. All the preparation in the world for a loss in week one, isn't going to change how miserable you and I and everybody else is going to feel after that game ends. And I'm not saying we're going to lose that game. I'm just trying to get this is what I'm trying to do, John. if we do end up losing that game, okay, it ain't over. It ain't like, I'm telling you, Freeman will pull off a 6-7 game win in a row. We'll be right back where we need to be, assuming we win out. That's all I'm saying.
Imagine,
I really feel that'll happen.
But imagine, maybe some of this is, I am really not looking forward to these shows. If we drop that game, it's going to get real ugly. It's going to be real. People are going to be out. People are going to be out, done with Freeman. It's going to be a nightmare. It's just going to be an overdramatic nightmare. And I can't complain because I'm the king of overdramatic. So that's just the way it's going to go. It's just the way
it's what makes our group. That's what makes our group. And that what makes your show so much fun, dude, is that it's like you come at it. That's what's so cool about the Goolsby connection now, is that you got this guy who's in it, Yeah. One of my favorite players of all time, too. I don't know if I said that enough, dude. I loved Goolsby when he played. I loved him. I thought he was, and then hearing him when he was on Blue and Gold and with Singer and Hyde, I mean, I just God, I love this guy. And then when you were talking about the matchup with you two and possibly happening, I was so excited for that. So, I mean, that whole, the way Always Irish is growing is amazing because I love the people involved. So let me say this, and then I'll get to my last point, but so I don't forget, in all seriousness, Commander Luke, man, I absolutely hope everything goes well, and I'm sure it will. And let's all take a prayer for Luke that he comes out of this okay. And wouldn't it be great if when Luke comes back, he all of a sudden becomes the most optimistic fan ever. Every post is over the top optimistic.
Yeah. They did something to his brain while he was under, and it put a positivity gene in there. And he's like, John,
God bless you, man. God bless you, Luke. Seriously, God bless you, man.
John, I totally agree with all of your points, and I disagree with none of them. And Freeman's doing a really
awesome.
Freeman's doing a really good job in recruiting. He's doing a great job. I'm gonna know something went wrong in that surgery.
Every 3-star will be a top. Will be in the first 4 rounds.
I trust this staff's evaluations. It's gonna be all the opposite. I'm gonna be like, bro, who stole Commander Luke? But Rodney, think about it though. It does make me feel.
So I guess we'd have to re-nickname him the $6 million optimist.
Yeah, I like that. But it does make me feel good. Think about it, Rodney. It's a early Monday morning. This guy's about to go under for surgery, and he's chatting in my live stream before he goes in this life and death situation. It honestly is flattering to me that he's thinking of us before he's doing a surgery. It means the world to me. I love that. Even though he's
so weird about that too. What's so weird about that too is there's been times that I've just had these, fleeting thoughts about like when I've gone into surgery. And I'm not gonna lie, John, what comes to my mind, my family, friends, people I love, Notre Dame football. Oh my God, I won't be able to see the season this year if I don't come out. I have some thoughts, man. It's just weird that that's great though. It's what brings everybody together. All right, let me say this, man. I'll let you go. She gets to the next one. The bye situation. Let me just say this one more time.
Hey, wait. By the way, Rodney, I want you to hit on this hard because that's the debate going on in the chat right now. Pat's debating with a couple other people about that bye, and does that really affect Notre Dame, make them look not serious about it because they want to play ball as independent and give that up? And then other people are debating Notre Dame does have a bye. It's conference championship week, so it all depends how you look at this. What are the realities of this bye situation? I'm not talking about your dating life, by the way. What is the situation with what is the situation with this, Rodney? Tell me what the realities are.
John, you got to do stand-up one of these days,
I'm
man.
just telling I don't know, dude.
The Always Irish stand-up show.
I don't know. What do you make of this? What do you make of this?
Yeah, man, again, I agree, honestly, on this one, absolutely, with those that are on the board of saying, well, we do have a bias conference championship weekend. It's like, is it really, John, I told you, that's the best idea for a bye. I just love my ideas that bye should come after week one. Everybody plays week one.
Yeah.
And then the people who did the rankings throughout the year, the college playoff, whatever the poll's called, get together one more time and they re-rank the teams after week one. The first 2 teams of that in a 12 system playoff, obviously, where you'd already have 6 left, get a bye. First 2 teams, and now we're going to the sporting thing, whatever. But I just think that'd be great for every college school, because think about it, dude. If you're like the number 1, number 2 team in the country, number 3, number 4, whatever. I mean, to me, it's kind of a privilege to play at home on campus for a playoff game. So I'm happy as an Notre Dame fan that if I get into the top 8, and I get my bye the week before. So, and then that first game we play, a playoff game, is at home after I had a bye. I like the momentum that could add to us if we win that game and go forward. So there you go. You're talking about what would it take to make a run? Having a bye before our first home playoff game where we're hosting. There you go.
Yeah,
and then going on you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, here's how I look at it.
I love the idea of a bye, dude. Week 1. I think week 0, I guess what I would call that.
Yeah.
The conference championship weekend.
Man,
I'm telling you, man. I actually think it might work better that way.
It all depends on how your mind frame looks at this whole process. If you include conference championship week, then your framework is totally different of how you're looking at this. If you include title game week that we don't have to be in and kind of include that, then you're going to be in a totally different mind space than if you're looking at it as you can only lose games you have to play and Notre Dame has to play another one. So there's all that additional risk or whatever. And then let me ask this. How do you break this up in your mind? All Notre Dame playoff appearances are not going to be the same with the same probability of winning. Meaning, if you're 11-1 and you have the 5 seed and you're hosting that cold game against a warm weather, lower ranked team, that's a real advantage. But if Notre Dame's not hosting a playoff game, their life got a lot tougher round 1. You don't have the bye, and then you're going to the horseshoe. You're going somewhere else for that game. That's where it gets tough. Notre Dame hosting that home game is the key to this being good for me.
Dude, you just basically echoed exactly what I'm thinking, man. It's not just, excuse me, it's not just the fact that the bye for Notre Dame, as I call it, no one's going to call it a bye. We don't play that week. They don't call it that. But to me, that's a huge story. Notre Dame gets a bye no matter what. They could be the 12th team in the playoff and they get a bye. Granted, they'd still be next week playing, on the road. But still, wouldn't you rather have a week off to prepare for who you're playing in your first playoff game on the road? You see what I'm saying, John? I think there's a ton of advantage to having that because it gets you going in the right direction. Having that bye after you've had probably a 4-week, 5-week, where you're playing every game week to week, again, at that point, right before you go into the playoffs. Whereas, let's say you're one of the 4 teams that get that bye in that first round. So you play your conference championship game. You blow your team out by 30 points. Now you got to take a bye when you got momentum going. So I don't know, man. I mean, I suppose it just kind of depends on the timing and what teams you're playing, and that's going to be kind of random. And then, whether the bye is better in the week before, the week after. The point is, we get one no matter what.
Yeah, a lot of it's
just, do you have to win 3 in a row, or do you have to win 4 in a row?
Yeah, a lot of it. And here's the other thing. No one knows how this is going to go at all. Anybody guessing is just guessing. None of us have seen this roll out yet. This is the first go around with it. Notre Dame's going to roll the dice, see how this goes as an independent, and see how the playoff treats them and what it's like. And then if they need to adjust down the road, or if the ACC caves and they need to adjust, then they'll adjust. But I don't know, man. I don't love it. Obviously, you can't lose a game you don't have to play. So I'm for Notre Dame having more buys, but I understand you had to give up something to be in it as an independent. And I don't hate the agreement. I think it's probably a fair agreement.
Look, to me, at worst, you are no worse off I mean that. I believe you're no worse off than if you have a bye in week 1 or whatever they call it, and still have to play a conference championship game the week before that. Or if you have that bye the week before that, and you think about this, the teams that have it the worst are the ones that lose that conference championship game. They got to win 4 in a row if they just lost the game, and they get no bye to prepare for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I guess there's some advantage to having the bye week 1. I'm telling you, Notre Dame always gets one. They just get it 1 week earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. But see,
I don't know, man. I don't see that as a disadvantage.
Some people don't view it that way because that's not the official.
They should.
Rodney, do you follow me though? That's not the official start of the playoffs. So to a lot of people, they're not even including that in the calculation of Notre Dame's playoff situation because those conference title games are not technically the playoff. That's the part of this that it really depends on if you're open-minded to building this out bigger for Notre Dame because they're in a unique situation. That's the thing.
I think what it is we would almost have to go through the analytics to find out, are teams better when they play 4 games in a row after a bye or when they play 3 games in a row after a bye? We would almost have to look that up and see what the analytics show us. For teams that have, whether it's in the regular season or not, do college teams perform better with 4 games in a row after a bye or 3 games in a row after a bye? I mean, it really comes down to that, in my opinion. So, again, man, that's fine. I understand if people want to feel that way, but I'm looking at it as there's no difference in advantage here. It's just
now. Here's the part of this that does really scare me, like kind of for real as a Notre Dame person existentially. For Notre Dame to reach their ultimate goal here, they have to win 4 major bowl games in a row in the same year, in like week on week on week on week. And that's 4 more major bowls than they've been able to win in 35 years combined. And they got to win them all in the same month. They got to win them all in the same month. That's a little scary, although there's momentum in this, Rodney. You get in that play.
I know. I was just going to say, John, that's because Notre Dame hasn't won a game in the first place. So if they win one, maybe it opens up the floodgates.
Right. That's a real thing, that if you had Notre Dame hosting that a home playoff game and all that environment would be, and you win that one, momentum's real, and then you catch a decent draw. You catch a decent draw on that bracket. Now you're cooking with some action, but we're just never in the position to get that far to do it.
I think that in some degree that happened in Michigan last year, man. Once they got rolling and they beat the first team or two, like when they beat Penn State, because that was when everybody was doubting that, now that you can't use, hand signal or whatever it was, then if you lose this one, but they didn't, and they, and then that kind of gave them the confidence. Okay, we weren't here because of that. We were here because, we came together as a team, and they went on, they beat Ohio State, and then it was like they beat Alabama, and after they beat Alabama, I'm like, okay, I don't, deep down, I think I predicted a close game, but when it started getting away from Washington, I don't want to get on Michigan's track, but you can feel these things, and momentum is something you can actually feel, man. It's tangible. A home win at Notre Dame Stadium will add so much more momentum to Notre Dame winning. Now, I think that's the other thing. That's the caveat. I said, it's always better to have a bye in that, the weekend conference championship Saturday. But maybe it's to go one step further. We'll have a bye and also be hosting a home game, being in the top 8.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the other part of it is that, if we're on the road, it does make it a lot more difficult if you got to be on the road, for that first week.
That's a big deal.
Having that home win to give you that, and then you win that game. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah. There is a huge difference to me between 11-1 Notre Dame hosting that game in South Bend against a 12 seed in cold weather versus making it a 10-2, and then you're at Ohio State. You're at an SEC team. Those are way different paths. Way different paths.
Oh, absolutely, man. So I don't know. I just think that you get a week. Okay, so let's say that happens. You get a bye, and then you host a playoff game. To me, and then you have 3 games you got to play in a row. To me, that momentum of hosting that playoff game and that excitement, and certainly out of fandom. And, it's a real thing, man. Energy is real. When it's all around you in the pot, that can absolutely fuel you. There's no doubt. I'm just saying, if that was to happen, I'd take that, and then I would take that win at home, and then 3 in a row. We just had a bye. Then take sitting at home that first week. The week, I don't know. Whatever, John. I guess it is just. There's a lot of nuances here, but to me, it's like people are. I'm just saying people are blowing it out of proportion to say it's a negative. That's all. You can just. Is it a slight negative? Is it a major positive? I don't know. But certainly to say the fact that we will, the one advantage Notre Dame has of any of those teams, we'll always at least have a week off at some point in a 4-game span. Or other teams won't always have that to be able to say.
This is going to be the ultimate experiment, and we're just going to have to see how it goes. Like Notre Dame's trying to position themselves and negotiate a way that they think they could make this navigatable. We're going to see how it goes. It's one big experiment, and we're going to see how it goes. And we need to start it off this year. You need to be hosting a playoff game the week of Christmas in South Bend. That's how you need it. You just need it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'll leave you with this, John, for all those fans of horror movies and The Ring, especially The Ring, let me just say this. Say 12 days.
There you go.
All right, John. See you later.
Have a good one. Thanks for checking in on a Monday. We'll see you. Oh, boy. Man, nothing's easy. Chief Brody, $5 hour. Thank you. For all the in-rigging I do over Freeman, I actually think Indy will go 12-0 this year. I really do. I just don't trust them to play coherent offense. How do you have them going 12-0 if you don't think they can even play competent offense? No. You got to make that make sense to me. How are they going to make that run when you don't think they're going to play offense? Oh, man. Andrew, I have an answer for that. Andrew said something I have an answer to. John, why are we conceding losses with this schedule? If they lose a game with this schedule, my confidence in making a playoff run is not good. The only caveat might be USC if they get things right. Also, it is the end of the year, so there's a lot of time for them to get right. All right. Maybe my answer to that would be statistically, it's very unlikely anyone goes undefeated in college football, even if you're really good. So, I understand you could look at that schedule and say Notre Dame should be favored in all those games or whatever, probably all those games. I'm just saying statistically, not for Notre Dame, for any team, statistically, the odds are against you making an undefeated season. Yeah, it's possible if you have a really good year and some good breaks. I'm just saying the statistics indicate it's really hard to go undefeated. So, leaning on that is kind of hard because it doesn't matter what team you are. Statistically, the odds of running the regular season undefeated are not high. So I don't know. And people are talking about USC. Listen, we all know how important the Notre Dame USC matchup is all the time, every year. Okay. When it's the odd year that we finish in LA, that one's really hard for me to get worked up about in the off season leading into it, because I don't know if USC is going to be any good and what's even on the line in week 12. Are we in a playoff position race and they're in a position playoff race in that last game of the year? Are only we and they have 5 losses and they're checked out again in true USC style? It's really hard for me to really dig deep into the Notre Dame USC game on the rotating years where it's the last game of the year, because there's so much that needs to happen before we get into that week for me to preview it. What's on the line? When it's the last game of the year, do both teams have playoff hopes on the line or not? That has a lot to do with it. So I don't know. I don't know. What else did I have here? Look at this. Texas A&M lost and Johnny wearing white overalls in the post-game show. Those people are weird. I am glad they have white overalls so everybody knows those are the weird people. It's like a uniform for weird people. At least they're wearing the white overalls so everybody knows weirdos, cult members right over there, weirdos. Think about how weird you got to be a male cheerleader in white overalls. Just like forget any other detail. How weird do you have to be as a person to be a male cheerleader in white overalls? Cult members, weird. What's Josh Pate saying? He's already been hinting at what? I'm not the only one with that opinion. Perception is eventually reality, and perception is the new Big Ten and the new SEC are above ND's half ACC. Are we arguing schedule strength? Because that varies greatly. If we're talking about schedule strength. And then the other thing that's coming up, you guys, is they're already talking about like breaking away from the NCAA and having a big, huge league thing with the SEC and the Big Ten and everything. And then where does Notre Dame go? All that. We're already doing all that. Oh boy, here we go. Good morning, Patrick Cotter.
You didn't even leave me on hold. You just brought me right in.
Yeah, I brought you right in. I was trying to do on the phone call with Rodney and all that. What is the debate about? What is the actual debate? I've been in and out of the chat.
It's about Notre Dame missing out because they are not in a conference, so they can't get the bye.
But what does Josh Pate have to do? Hinting at what? I don't understand what he's hinting at.
I don't know.
What does it mean?
I don't know. Apparently Josh Pate hinted at something, so that means it's written fact, and everyone needs to bow down to it because now it's on the internet.
Josh Pate's historically been pretty fair to Notre Dame too. He's not a guy who goes out of his way to take gratuitous shots at Notre Dame.
So that's all that matters. He's hinting at it. Nothing else matters.
But who cares? I hinted things on my YouTube show all the time. Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? I don't understand. I hinted things all the time and nobody cares what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So, Pat, this all depends on perspective of whether or not Notre Dame screwed itself doing this type of deal, not able to get a bye, or if this is a good way to thread the needle and allow Notre Dame to be independent mostly and make the playoff. Like, I don't know what the reality is. We got to see it play out first. I don't know.
The whole thing is, first of all, it's a ludicrous argument because the reason the media made such a big deal about the bye and Notre Dame not getting a bye is because they realized that this makes it easier for Notre Dame. It absolutely makes it easier for Notre Dame. And that pissed everybody off. So the press going out there, the Feinbaums of the world were pissed. And so they went out there and they created a narrative that Notre Dame cannot survive in this new format because they'll never get a bye. And everybody, except a guy like Josh Pate, who is fair and honest, everybody completely forgot that Notre Dame doesn't have to play in a conference championship game anymore. Or they never did. Notre Dame doesn't have to play in a conference championship game. So Notre Dame literally has a built-in bye before the playoffs even.
So see, Pat, that's the disconnect. Disconnect. Because if you just look at it from the lens of the actual tangible playoff format, then that's the argument. But we're including the conference championship week as a part of Notre Dame's playoff experience, kind of. I think that's the divide people are having. I think that's the problem people are having.
Not just that, but conference championship week is a part of the playoffs now. It's a part of the playoffs. Look what happened. Ohio State got eliminated from the playoffs, and Georgia, a team that was on an unbelievably dominant run, 2 national championships, lost the conference championship game, and was eliminated from the playoffs as a result.
All
So
right,
it's a part of it.
Pat,
And
how
now
do you respond to this? How do you respond to this? Andrew Gilmore says, no, Pat is wrong. Indy loses a data point on not being in the conference championship.
So what?
I don't know if I agree with that, Andrew. I don't see them penalizing.
I don't agree with it. So what?
I don't see them penalizing Notre Dame, and I'm not sure I see that. He thinks a 3-loss team could get an auto bid. But we always,
Notre Dame is ranked in the,
I don't know.
If Notre Dame is already ranked in the top 10 going into conference championship week, they're pretty much guaranteed they're in the playoff. Something amazing would happen. And because you've got to figure the Big Ten is now, they're not doing this. Iowa doesn't get their automatic bid to be a tune-up game for Ohio State or Michigan anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to work that way in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It's going to be the 2 best teams.
Yeah.
So the SEC, it's always going to be the East. I don't know if they're still doing East or West or not, but it doesn't matter because the SEC is always going to have 2 highly ranked teams in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
So these championship games aren't eliminating Notre Dame. They're not. Nobody's going to play a conference championship game and eliminate Notre Dame from the playoffs because of how they did. Those teams are likely already in. And one of it is probably fighting not to be eliminated from the playoff. If anything, you might have a 2-loss team in the conference championship game, and they get that 3rd loss, they're knocked out.
See, that's the next thing I wanted to bring up, Pat, is yes, that conference championship week could really pull you up, solidify you, move you up the rankings for playoff seeding or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a downside to that. If you're in that conference championship week and you're on the brink and you lose, you may end up dropping like a rock and having a bad seed or lose, and then you're out. Like, there's risk and benefit to this. There's risk and benefit to this across all ways. There really is. I could see this a lot of different ways.
I get where Andrew's coming from. I said it before that I think there's ways that a 10-2 Notre Dame team doesn't make the playoff. I don't think.
You think it'd be rare though? You think that would be a rare combination of totally rare blend of circumstance?
Here's my point. It's not going to be because a 3-loss team comes out of nowhere and wins the conference championship game. A 3-loss team is not in a conference championship.
That's a good point.
That's my problem. They're not going to be in their conference championship.
That's a good point.
He's saying that a 3-loss team has to win the conference. You're not going to get that out of the SEC. You're not going to get that out of the Big Ten. I'm not worried about the ACC because even if there's a 3-loss ACC team lost, the revenue generation that Notre Dame has. So I don't see that happening. I don't see that as an actual avenue that it can happen.
It's going to be, I don't know where, listen, I don't think I blame Notre Dame. People are saying Notre Dame's going to get left behind, Notre Dame and all this. I don't blame Notre Dame.
Not only
listen,
not getting left behind, they're getting written special deals into the playoff. That's what people aren't realizing. The playoff wants Notre Dame, and they're fine Notre Dame keeping their independence. They're paying Notre Dame more money for their independence. Notre Dame is set up here. The playoff is not looking to leave Notre Dame behind. Come on. Let's be honest, people. There's one thing that all of this stuff is about. It's about money. Who draws more money than Notre Dame?
Yeah. It's
seriously.
Here's my thought.
They want Notre Dame there. That's why they made this road easy for Notre Dame. They want Notre Dame there.
Here's my thought.
And you know what they want? You know what they want more? They want Notre Dame to lose, so everybody can go on the media and talk about Notre Dame losing.
There you go.
Notre Dame's still there. They're still drawing eyeballs to play.
Here's one way I look at this is I respect Notre Dame trying to maintain independence and find a way to exist in this new dynamic. I applaud them for being willing to try and do that and not just immediately fold and cave and hop in line with the conferences or whatever.
Right.
I value that they tried to weave a deal together to be able to do everything they need to do here. I respect that. Now, if it backfires and Notre Dame has whatever it looks like, and and you got to figure something else out, then we could cross that bridge when we get to it. But in the beginning, I like the fact that they're willing to do what it takes to try this independent. I appreciate that. I can't guarantee the result. I don't know that it's going to work out great for us, but I respect Notre Dame at least trying to find a format where they can exist as an independent in this new world. That matters to me, that they're at least trying to do this. And if it blows up on us, we got to figure something else out.
Yeah. And Papa Smurf, what a dumbass comment that is. It isn't the 70s. It's not fun for Indy. It's about money.
Yeah.
It's about money.
Yeah.
Notre Dame draws money.
Yeah.
Notre Dame every year has 2 or 3 games in the top 10 most watched college football games of the season.
Yeah.
It's about money. And as Notre Dame is making money and drawing money to college football and drawing money to TV, they're going to be there. They're going to want them there. Notre Dame's going to be a part of it. So I don't know what the 70s has to do with it. People said the same thing in the 80s and the 90s when Lou Holtz was kicking the hell out of everybody. It's about money. It's all about money. You know, it's just, oh God, those are the kind of arguments where it's just like, you don't have any clue of what the hell you're talking about. And it's just, you're doing a disservice to it. It's like that scene from Billy Madison. We are all now dumber for listening to what you just said.
I don't know, man. And the other thing, Pat,
and it's a proof. Dowling's right. ND got a damn good deal. If they didn't care about ND, they would have. The playoff could have very easily turned around and tell Notre Dame, you know what, guys, we're not going to give you any money. We're going to choke you out. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to join a conference.
Join or you're out. Yeah, join or you're out. The powers that be.
Not even that. They could have said, all right, as an independent, but you're not getting any extra money. Yeah. Notre Dame's getting extra money from this. That keeps them on the level of the conferences. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to, and they did. Why? Because Notre Dame draws.
Yeah. Yep. And the other part of this, you mentioned it briefly. Sometimes I forget this. I believe this is the first year both the SEC and the Big Ten are both not going to have the 2 divisions, and the 2 best teams are going to play in the title game. That changes a lot about how it isn't, like you said, it isn't Iowa or 4-loss Northwestern coming out of the other side. There's going to be real risk in losing a game here. There's going to be real risk and reward to losing a game here in this format moving forward. And you could even get repeat games, Pat. You could get Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a lot more risky and not just chalky. It's been.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't know, but I give
out the playoff committee doesn't. How is ND choking? What does that even mean? This is what I'm talking about. What a stupid ass comment. Like there's no actual reason or way to defend that comment. ND is choking itself out. The playoff committee just gave them a bag of money. They gave Notre Dame a bag of money for existing.
Yeah, I don't understand this either.
A bag of.
I don't understand.
They're getting a bag of money.
I don't understand
They essentially told Notre Dame, you can stay independent for as long as you want. We're going to give you an extra $12 million. Like, seriously, what are they choking themselves out? How? They have an easier path to the playoff because they don't have to go through a conference championship game. If they go undefeated, they're almost guaranteed to be the number 5 seed.
Yeah.
Because you got to figure there'll probably be a 1-loss team in front of them between 1 to 4 because of the guarantees of the conference champions.
Right.
There'll be an undefeated number 5 seed. They'll have a home game against the 12th ranked team. Who's got the easier path? And they have a bye week. They have 2 weeks off because you got the conference championship game, and then you got the Army-Navy game. Then you got the playoffs. So Notre Dame's got a 2-week lead up into that game against that 12
team. So now he's saying Rutgers has a better deal than Notre Dame. Yeah, Rutgers is going to make more money than Notre Dame by their affiliation with Rutgers the Big Ten. But
Rutgers that is make $90 million to go 6-6 again. like are 8-3. Who gives a shit about
Right.
Rutgers?
I wouldn't
They're gonna
prefer.
make $90 million
Right.
to be
Yeah.
soccer for Ohio State, Michigan, and USC and Penn State. That's what they're making $90 million to lose games to those teams. Good for you, Rutgers. We'll never see you in the playoffs.
But wait a second. Is it Mike here that we're debating with? And now he's saying Vanderbilt has a better deal than ND. We're not. Wait, how do you separate the deal financially? He's not separating the finances from the practical realities of the setup. That's where this guy's at in his mind. He's looking at it only at like the money and the buy thing. Notre Dame has unique circumstances they have to navigate different than Vanderbilt and Rutgers. And it's not just about that money, or Notre Dame would have already made a move. There's more involved here in the equation.
And because this is my conjecture, but others in the media have said it, but this is my conjecture, the Rutgers and the Vanderbilts and the Marylands and the Indianas and the Illinois, the bottom feeding teams of these conferences that have no chance of winning anything, who are getting paid the $90 million a season, at some point, the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Georgias and the LSUs and the Alabamas and Oklahomas, they're going to wake up one day and they're going to say, we're the reason these conferences are getting all this money. We're the reason Vanderbilt's getting all this money.
Yeah.
Be sharing that with them. And all the talk about getting choked out. This is continuing a progression. It's continuing a progression. And Michigan is going to call up NBC and Fox and say, how about USC, Penn State, Wisconsin, UCLA, and Nebraska? How about we all come together and we make our own little tenure conference? You pay the same amount of money you were paying before to us, but all of our splits go up higher, and you get better games to broadcast. And let Northwestern go F itself.
Yeah, and if you think,
see that coming,
Pat, and if you think that all those people are going to stay loyal to their members because they're all in this together, whatever, bro, you're in for a rude awakening. When it comes down to making money, they will turn on their own. Yeah, I get it.
Like I'm painting a picture because I see this coming. So this is my conjecture. But if nobody else realizes that this is what's going to happen, TV cannot sustain this deal. They're paying so much money for these conferences. They're not getting the revenue that they need to turn. They might make money off of Rutgers, Maryland, but they're not making enough money off of Rutgers, Maryland to justify it. So eventually they're going to go to the top tier programs, or the top tier programs are going to come to them. It's going to happen. And in 5 to 10 years, all these conference realignments are going to fall apart, because you don't need Vanderbilt or South Carolina in the SEC to make $100 million. You need Alabama and LSU in Georgia.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. This is all new. A lot of it's experimental. Everybody's positioning themselves in what they think is the best position for their circumstances in this new dynamic. And then we need to get some results. We need to see how this plays out for a little bit. And then we'll start to see whether Notre Dame made good decisions or bad decisions, or if pivots are needed, or if Notre Dame's positioned well. We're just going to have to wait and let it see. Anything else, Pat? I love getting your blood pressure going on a Monday morning. It's a beautiful thing, brother. It's a beautiful start. It's a beautiful start. It's warm. You going to go to the golf course? You going to go to the golf course today? Come on.
I can't. It's my daughter's birthday. She's 5 today, so we have softball practices right after school, and then we're gonna have her birthday dinner. She wants to go to Dairy Queen because she's 5, and then you know what tomorrow is, John?
Is it your birthday?
I'll be 40 tomorrow.
Yeah, I knew it was close. That 40. Yeah. I'm struggling with that too. October's mine, and it's like Pat, that first number turn into 4. It's kind of existential in your mind. It triggers a different thing in my brain to see that 4. Gosh.
I know. I was laying in bed last night, and I looked at the wife and I said, this might be one of your last chances. Being a guy in his 30s, she declined.
Only if it's you. There's a lot of other guys that are younger than with you is the caveat.
I know it's weird though. It's weird. I always thought, man, it'll be forever before I'm 40, and now it's knocking on the door. I'm like, oh God.
I know.
My dad's telling me about colonoscopies. I'm like, oh.
Here we go, man. Pat, I remember the parties at your house for your 21st birthday. Like that's 20 damn. I can already remember that party.
I know. That was 20 years ago. I was 19 when we met. Yeah.
Jeez, that's wild. All right, Pat. Hey, take care of the family. Go in some chicken strips over at Dairy Queen, and have a good one, buddy. Thanks for giving me a call, getting it going on a Monday. See ya later.
Always, bye.
Yeah. Oh boy. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Again, a lot of this, you guys, yes, Angela, was the jersey party. That's what we used to do in college. We had our Notre Dame jersey parties, and everybody would just wear a different jersey. It's always something. Oh, man. 773. What? Let's see. Is this Pat again or somebody else with almost the exact same number? 773, what's going on?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, Big Ten brothers. Here, I'll explain this TV contract. I talked, me and a couple brothers played in the Big Ten, so we got hold of some of the athletic directors or assistant athletic directors. If you look at this TV contract, you talk about Rutgers. Sure, we're going to get, I don't know if it's 85 or 90 million this year. I've seen both, 85 million, 90 million when the West Coast teams join. And then they automatically get the 21 or 23 million for the playoffs. So Rutgers this year, if you go 90, let's say at 100, 110, they'll make $113 million just from the 85 or 90 plus the playoff money. Now, if you look at what the guy said to me, he says, here's the Big Ten, what they make. And then underneath that, he put the SEC. And then under that, he put Notre Dame. And he circled Notre Dame. And it said, in 2027, Notre Dame can make an estimated $50 million. So they'll jump up. They're making $22 million now, plus the $12 million they get automatically for the playoffs. Plus, if they make the playoffs, they get another $6 million. But with Notre Dame, everything is estimated. Estimated because it's an extension. That $50 million starts in 2027. They still have to run out 3 years of the NBC contract at $22 million. So it's that extension. Can they wait 3 years to try to get to $50 million? And part of that, it's on what he called a sliding scale. NBC wants Notre Dame to start playing Big Ten teams to get to that estimated $50 million. If they continue to play the schedule they're playing, it starts at 25 if they continue to play MAC teams, but they get $5 million more for 5 Big Ten games. And the math worked out perfect when he explained it to me. 45 million, play a Big Ten team. 30 million, play another one. 35, play another one. And what's that? 5 or 6 Big Ten teams to get to the $50 million. But if you look at the pay, because I called it back, I said, why does it say estimated? But the Big Ten is a hard 85 million plus a hard 22 million. The SEC is a hard 81 million and then a hard 23 million. The SEC makes $2 million more a team because they have 2 less teams. Because I asked them that. And why is the Big Ten getting 21 million for the playoffs? And the SEC is getting 23 million because SEC has 16 teams. So this guy is right on. He broke it down to each team and why they're getting. And he says the problem Notre Dame is going to have is they still have 3 years left with their NBC contract now. That $50 million is an extension starting in 2027 for 4 years. But they give them the 3 years to get to 2027 to get to the $50 million. Let's see what Notre Dame does with their schedule. By that point, they can add Big Ten teams and work up to that 50. So they estimated with the playoffs, you're going to get the same as the ACC, 12 or 13 million, plus 6 million if you get in. We're going to get you to 18 million. And then underneath that, it said ACC payout, and then it had a big question mark.
$8 to $12 million, depending if ESPN decides they're going to stay with the ACC after these teams leave. Right now, they get $17 million. Notre Dame will get $17 million with the ACC the way it is right now. But in Florida State, then in February of 25, ESPN can come back to the table and say, we're not going to renew this schedule. ACC plays 2 more years with it, but they have to announce by February of 25 if they're going to renew that contract to 2036. They can bail out of it, and then the ACC's got 2 more years, and that's over with. So when they look at the ACC, they put $17 million as Notre Dame's payout, but then there's a huge question mark. It's estimated for the 50, estimated for the playoffs, and estimated with the ACC. They can make as little as $48 million if they just hit the basics, or they can make as much as $75 million if they get to, when they get to $50 million, if they get to $18 million with the playoffs, and then if they get to $17 million with the ACC. But none of that's guaranteed. That $50 million starts in 2027, and they have to put Big Ten teams on. And I'll tell you why they want Big Ten teams. Go Google the viewership. When the Notre Dame plays Wake Forest and Duke and Army and Navy, they average about 3.5 million viewers. When they played Ohio State, they had 13 million viewers.
Yeah.
And NBC seen that. They took a look at that and said, that's the direction we want to go in 3 years if you want that $50 million.
Let me ask you this.
We want Michigan.
Let me ask you this. What will be the appetite for other Big Ten teams to want to schedule Notre Dame in the new playoff era and with the way this is all setting up? What is their willingness to want to take on a non-conference tough opponent in this new playoff dynamic? I'm just wondering how many teams are going to want to do that when they feel like, 10-2 can get you in the playoff now or whatever. What's their willingness going to be like to go out of their way to schedule a team like Notre Dame in that dynamic? I don't know.
Because of NBC. NBC wants, when Notre Dame plays a Michigan, Ohio State, other than Rutgers, and I don't mean anything against Rutgers and Indiana, but when they play that from the middle to the top, the viewership triples. I mean, 13 million when they played Ohio State.
Yeah, but if I'm those schools, I would rather have a win than high TV ratings and a loss. Like, I'm not letting that dictate my scheduling, because if I'm the team, not the TV networks, if I'm a team, I'd rather have lower TV numbers and a win in the column than higher TV numbers and maybe a loss by scheduling a good team out of conference, right?
Okay, so let me explain this to you. Look at Michigan's schedule this year. Their second non-conference game, Texas. They're not afraid to play. Ohio State played Oregon. I think they played Georgia or somebody.
They were afraid last year. They played a high school schedule 11 weeks. They were afraid last year.
You're right. It was a soft schedule. But what I'm saying is, are they really afraid to it, or is it just scheduling?
Yeah.
Like, if they call Notre Dame and Notre Dame says, hey, we'd like to play it, and they said, look, we're booked up. You just got to keep going till you can fill your schedule, because they do these schedules 3 years in advance. This year's schedule, next year's schedule, and possibly the next year's schedule is already done. They don't do the schedule like, okay, this season's over, let's do next year's schedule. And that's why NBC gave Notre Dame 3 years when the new contract starts 27. We want to see Big Ten teams there, because when you played Ohio State, you had 13 million viewers. You can add up, 3, 6, 7. That's 4 ACC games. That's a Syracuse. Add up Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, and throw Army and Navy in there. Was the same viewership numbers as when Ohio State showed up in South Bend, and that's what NBC's looking for. Now you say, why would a Big Ten team put Notre Dame on at the beginning? It's not as risky for the Big Ten team, because they can lose to Notre Dame and still go and win the conference or get to the conference championship. You got to remember, so let's say Michigan plays Texas and Notre Dame, and they go 0-2. They're still on the table in the Big Ten, and they're the champions, and they get the number 2 or third slot. There's no risk when you play out of conference of losing the games because you always, as long as you get that conference championship. Okay, say they lose to Texas this year. Texas comes in and beats Michigan. They're still in good shape. They just have to win their eight Big Ten conference games. Just keep winning till you play Ohio State because that's going to be the game that's going to get you into the championship and then determine who the Big Ten championship is. So the thing that's unique about being in a conference is you can lose a game or a here and a game there as long as they're not conference games. And you can go 10-2, still be in the conference championship and win it because you lost to 2 non-conference games. So that's not going to hurt you. Now, does it hurt your record? You're 10-2, but are they going to tell if Ohio State goes 0-2 at the beginning of the year and then they run the table for 10 games and they get in the conference championship? Do you think they're going to tell Ohio State, oh, look, you lost 2 non-conference games, but you're the Big Ten champion?
Yeah.
We're not going to let you in the play. No, they're going to get an auto bid. You're going to get an auto bid. So that's the beauty of being in a conference, and that's what hurts Notre Dame is they lose to A&M. That hurts because they can't look back and say, well, let's just win the ACC and we're in. No, we're going to look at your whole body of work because you don't play a conference championship game. You can't win a conference. So every single game is going to help you or you're going to lose where, like I said before, Michigan loses to Texas. Oh, yeah, we wanted to win the game, but as long as we win our 8 Big Ten games and get the conference championship, we're going to get an auto bid.
So,
and that's where nothing in a conference hurts.
So let me ask this then. I could tell you've looked into this, thought about it a lot. Is your chief concern going to be Notre Dame over the compiling of years falls behind financially by an amount that is unsustainable for Notre Dame to remain highly level competitive? Or is it an on the field thing? You don't like the structure of Notre Dame in this playoff, not getting the bye, or is it both? Like, I'm just wondering where you think the biggest danger is for Notre Dame existentially as an independent. Is it the compiling of the money you're not getting that Rutgers and Maryland get year over year over year? Is that the main crux?
I think it's the whole thing. It's always going to be the money because they're heading towards paying players. That's where this thing. You look at the Dartmouth case with the basketball players; they keep winning with this.
They're going to be employees, aren't they? They're going to be borderline employees soon with insurance and everything else. I feel like.
And what's going to happen is this is why this money is so important because Dartmouth looks like they're going to be employees. They're going to be in Union 150 or 170, just like other union employees that work at Dartmouth. What's going to happen is this money, eventually, they're going to have to sit down with the players and work out where they're all getting paid, not NIL, but they're all going to get paid through a union, however they set it up. Now, what hurts Notre Dame is that $50 million that they're looking at for the extension when this contract with NBC's up. So that $50 million doesn't start till 2027. And it's estimated, depending on the slide scale, how tough the teams are. If you play Ohio State, you get $13 million, you get the bonus. You play Michigan State, you get $10 million, you get the bonus. So that's all they're looking at. You can Google all this stuff up. All the viewerships for each game is, they got the schedule, and then right next to it, win, loss, and then the viewerships. So I could see it. You could see it. And could see it. So my thing is because I believe that Notre Dame, Nebraska, USC, one of the Florida schools, they all have to be good for college football to be great. When Texas is losing, Nebraska's losing, Notre Dame's not competing for national. 3 Florida schools are 6-6. College football isn't that good. I want to see college football get back to how it used to be when we played. Like in the 80s, it was phenomenal. But getting back to Notre Dame's situation is, okay, they have to wait 3 years to get an estimated $50 million, where Rutgers this year is going to get 85 or 90 million no matter what, and they're going to get 21 million for the playoffs no matter what. So $12 million approximately, and they can go 1-11. And they're going to get their check for 100. And the quote before you here, let me get back to your question with Notre Dame. So they're falling 3 years behind the Big Ten and the SEC. They started their contracts last year. By the time 2027 comes around, guess what? 2 years later, the Big Ten and SEC are sitting at the table again to renegotiate their contract after the 2029 season. So 2030, they're going to go back to the table again. Who knows how much it's going to jump? Maybe they're going to make $130 million a year, where Notre Dame is stuck in this. Possibly they could get $50 million if they play the right teams. We'll give you the $5 million bonus. But the thing about Notre Dame, what really is going to crush them, and this is when they're going to join a conference, is when this player comes up and they get rid of this NIL and they get into the more of employees. It'll be a lot easier for the Big Ten and SEC to negotiate with unions as a conference. We're going to come to the table as a conference to negotiate these contracts for our players. So is Notre Dame by themselves going to be able to sit down with a union and negotiate contracts by yourself? You know what I'm saying? It's a lot easier to do stuff with it. That's why there is conferences, because it's a lot easier to schedule. It's a lot easier to do stuff, and it'll be a lot easier to pay the players too because of what the money that they're making. Now, you just got to hope that this union stuff gets pushed back to where Notre Dame is hopefully at the $50 million a year stuff. It doesn't accelerate where in 2 years, they're like, okay, you got to start paying your players. Whoa, wait a minute. We're still at $22 million a year. We're not at 2027 yet. We didn't hit our extension. But I think what's happening is this, talking to the guys I talked to in the athletic department, what they said is they're slow-walking Notre Dame, NBC slow-walking Notre Dame into the Big Ten. But you get bonuses if you play Big Ten. All right, so we put 5 or 6 Big Ten schools. The ACC, let's say it's collapsed. So now they might as well put the Big Ten schools on there to get to that $50 million. Let's say it's 2027. To get to that $50 million, we're going to go ahead and schedule 6 Big Ten schools, pick up the $5 million per school. Now it's to the point where, well, heck, you already play 6 Big Ten schools for $50 million.
Okay, now wait.
Why don't you just
Here,
go ahead?
That I think some of the chat has, and so do I. Did I miss the part that says Notre Dame gets different amounts of money based on what Big Ten team they play or whatever? Like, how did I miss that detail? Where is that detail that Notre Dame gets more if they play better? I have not seen that.
That's what you call, have you ever heard anybody say that they're on a sliding scale? That's what that means. Like if you've heard any, see, I don't know if you talk to anybody that really knows anybody inside the athletic department, but that's why when you see the Big Ten, it has the Big Ten emblem, then it says media next to the emblem. I think it's on the computer. Then it says, and it's a hard $90 million, $90 million. Then it's a hard $21 million for the playoffs. Then it has the SEC emblem. Then next to it has the media. And what I mean by media, it has the NBC emblem, ESPN. What media is paying these schools. Then they have a hard $81 million and a hard $23 million for the playoffs. And then they have Notre Dame, and what they have is media, and then it says estimated $50 million. Now this is going to, it says $22 million / estimated $50 million. $22 million for the next 3 years, $50 million if they get to where they want them to go to. And same with the playoffs, estimated. They're going to get $13 million / $18 million if they participate in the playoff. Then it says ACC is $17 million / question mark. Who knows if they're even going to be around?
Man, this is
so everything is.
So do you think this is all building to an ultimate scenario where Notre Dame ends up joining the Big Ten for a million different reasons, financial, competitive, and otherwise? Is that where this ends up to you?
Yeah, I think so, because if you look, even if they get, let's say they schedule 5 or 6 Big Ten teams and they get that $50 million in 2027, And then they get the $13 million automatically, just, because that's what the ACC, all the ACC teams get $13 million. But then they get the +6 if they actually make the playoffs. And then what's really going to crush them is what happens with last year. They got paid $17 million from the ACC, which is really getting paid by ESPN. ESPN pays the ACC, and then they cut up the check along with the ACC network. And then the reason why Notre Dame gets $17 million is because ESPN paid the other ACC schools $34 million because they had all their games, where ACC/ESPN only gets 5 games. So ACC pays Notre Dame half of the $34 million, which is the $17 million that's coming. Now, if they would have played, if they'd have played 9 ACC games, then they would have got the whole $34 million. But then NBC isn't involved. ESPN takes over if they're gonna play 9. So that's why it's split up, because NBC gets the 6 or 7 home games, and then the ACC gets 5. So really, you look at it like, okay, a full payment would be $22 million from NBC plus add the $17 million from ESPN, and that's their real payment. So whatever 22 and 17 is what they made this year. The playoff money isn't kicked in yet. So that's where they're at, $22 million plus the $17 million. What's that come out to? About $39 million. So they got paid $39 million from NBC/ACC/ESPN. Well, the Big Ten got paid $73 million. And it's going up when Oregon, Washington, it's going up to $85 or $90 million when the West Coast teams join. So for the next 3 years, ESPN's going to get paid $22 million. Hopefully they get the $17 million. But as soon as Florida State and them walk, ESPN's going to either not renew the contract, or they're going to say, fine, you know what, we're still going to have ACC games on, but we're not paying you $34 million a team. We're going to pay you $18 million. We're going to pay you half, because ESPN already said if Florida State and Clemson leaves, there goes 50% of the value of the ACC. So they've already set the table like, oh, if they leave, we're going back to the table, and you're going to get half. You're going to get $17 million. Then you can turn around and pay Notre Dame $8.5 million.
And everybody's confused on this. We have people in the chat that disagree, don't think this is the setup, disagree with the timing of those contracts, saying that our own AD Bavacqua came out and just said the opposite of this. I don't know what the realities are. Now my brain's spinning with all these numbers. I got to admit, you went over a lot. You went over a lot of numbers and my brain couldn't process all that quick.
But I'm trying to, here, you can look that stuff up. Look what NBC paid, $22 million this year. They just did the playoff where they said they get.
Okay, wait, time out. Pat's saying the current contract expires in 24, not 27. What is that other 3 years you're saying we're falling behind?
Well, that's the extension. If you go to the computer and look at it, they extended Notre Dame from 2027 to 2031. Notre Dame's contract with NBC is not up yet. And that's why everything, if you hear, Notre Dame kept this hush-hush on the quiet. Do you think if they would have got a contract of $50 million this year, they would have been hush-hush? No, they would have wanted to. Okay, Big Ten got theirs, yes, but we got ours.
He's saying
the whole reason why it's
25 to 29. The contract is extended from 25 to 29 per an NBC News release. That seems to be the confusion.
Okay, so then the 26 season it starts. It's after the 25 season, then it gets extended from the 26, 20, but it's an extension. They're not getting that $50 million now. Like the Big Ten is getting theirs. They get theirs in July. Here's your check. Have a good season, and we'll see you for the playoffs. What NBC's got is an extension, but they're stuck for 2 years then instead of 3. I was off by a year. 2 years, I look at a lot of numbers, so I might have been off by a year. 2 years, they're still stuck with the contract that they have with NBC. But it's a sliding scale starting in, did you say after the 26th season or the 26th season? it's a sliding scale to move them into the Big Ten. So they want to slow walk them into the Big Ten. They don't want to come out and say, Notre Dame, you have to join the Big Ten or we're walking. So ACC's collapsing. That works out perfect for NBC. Because now they don't look like the bad guys. Like, whoa, we didn't pull Notre Dame away from you. You guys collapsed. You pay Notre Dame the $17 million every year that you give them for 5 games. And now they came to us. We talked, and they said, "Look, we can't operate with the ACC imploding. We can't operate with $13 million playoff money. Plus, if we make the playoffs, we get $6 million more. We're still $5 or $6 million behind the Big Ten and SEC. We're behind Rutgers just in playoff money. Now, where it gets worse, John, is that's just 1 year. Add that up. How much is 85 or 90 million over 10 years? And that's only going to go up for the Big Ten and SEC. And let's say they're 50 million for 5 years. 50 million. Well, Rutgers is making 90 million, 95 million plus playoffs. So they're still making half of what Rutgers is making over the next 5 to 10 years. When you add it up, it even gets worse. It's looking at it for 1 year.
But why would Notre Dame agree to that? I'm not understanding the numbers to be what you're saying. Why would Notre Dame agree to that? Because they would know that they can't financially compete if they're falling that far behind and it compiles year over year. Why would Notre Dame ever agree to that, to put themselves permanently behind financially? Why would they agree to that?
Because if you look at it here, let's just say they play the Big Ten 6 games. They play the Big Ten and they hit their goal of $50 million. Let's say it's 2026 or 2027, whenever this contract runs out. They're actually getting the same as the Big Ten from NBC, because the Big Ten is giving NBC 12 games. They're giving them their whole season for $90 million. Actually, Notre Dame ahead. Because if NBC is giving the Big Ten schools $90 million for 12 games, for 12 weeks, they get to put on Notre Dame football. Not only for 12 weeks, but they can have an 11 o'clock game. Because you've got 18 teams, so you got 9 games every weekend. They could have a 9 o'clock game, a 2 o'clock game, a 6 o'clock game. They could put 3 Big Ten team games on every Saturday and still have 6 left over for networks to cover, where Notre Dame offers up 6 home games a year. 1 game every weekend for 6. NBC's giving them half, a little more than half of what they're paying the Big Ten schools. Big Ten schools get $90 million, and Notre Dame hits their thing $50 million. NBC says that's fair. You're giving us 6 or 7 home games. Okay, the Big Ten's giving us 12 games. Times 3 games. You see what I'm saying? So the Big Ten or Notre Dame is getting paid what the Big Ten's getting paid as far as offering up the product. And you see now ESPN gets the other. When they play the ACC, they get the other 5 or 6 games that they cover the ACC with. So Notre Dame is splitting up between ESPN and NBC, but they're only giving NBC 6 games, so they had to agree with that. How could Notre Dame say, well, we want $90 million, but we're only going to give you 6 home games? NBC would say, take a hike. We're getting 12 games from Ohio State, Michigan. So you're getting the same, Notre Dame. You're getting half. Now, if you want to join the conference and give us 12 games, here's your check for $90 million, because now we got all 12 games. You see?
I'm not talking just about the NBC deal. I'm talking about the totality of your money in the pool, whether it comes from the ACC deal, the NBC deal, or the playoff kicker. Right. I'm just figuring Notre Dame would never allow itself to be in a position where they're perpetually falling behind Rutgers by a substantial amount of millions every year that compounds over time. I have a hard time believing Notre Dame would ever do that, because then you're done being competitive forever. So I don't think Notre Dame would ever agree to a deal that puts them $20 million behind a year from Rutgers, and then it's 40, and then it's 60, and then it's 80, and in 5 years you're $100 million less. Notre Dame, why would Notre Dame ever do that?
Are you saying why did they agree the extension? Why didn't they rip up the contract and starting this year we want the 50? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
Like,
I was not operating under the assumption Notre Dame's falling 25, 30 million behind Rutgers every single year. I don't think Notre Dame would agree to that deal. That's why I'm confused.
okay, what you tell me they have? They have two things covered. They have the other Big Ten schools have 5 Fox. They have 5 media networks covering them: Fox, ESPN, NBC, ABC. They're getting their revenue network. They're getting their revenue from 5 different media places. Notre Dame's getting their revenue from NBC for 6 home games, and then 6 ACC games from ESPN / the ACC. What can they do? What can we do? We only have so many games to offer you. We can only give the ACC 5 or 6 games. We can only give NBC 6 home games. What are they going to do? Play 20-game schedule and say, look, we got more games. We want more money.
Well, the other option would be join a conference. If I'm in a situation where in 5 years I'm 100 million behind Rutgers, then my option is to join a conference, because you're not able to exist in my opinion, if you're falling behind by that much. That's where I'm at. Like, that's where I'm coming from.
Vanderbilt and Rutgers are going to make $112 million this year, between the 85 or 90 million plus the 23 million with the playoffs. You're right. They don't have it. Everyone says, well, Notre Dame will stick. Decisions already been made. Decisions already been made by how the pie's cut up. Notre Dame has to, at some point, sit down and say to themselves, can we exist like this? Let's, the 50 million plus the 12 million playoff plus, let's just take the ACC out of it, because that's gone. I mean, they might get 6, 7, 8 million out of that when it implodes if ESPN decides that they're going to keep playing ACC football. But they're not going to get 17 million with Florida State, with the top 4 schools out of there. So let's just take ACC out for a minute. So can we live on, let's just say it's 2026 or 2027 now. Could we live on the 50 million? Okay, we'll meet all the requirements. We have Purdue on the schedule. We got Michigan State. We meet all the requirements of the Big Ten. So give us the $50 million. And then let's just say they go 9-3. Okay, then we get the $13 million for the playoffs. Can they live with $63 million, the $50 million plus that's the automatic, if that's why it says estimated next to the Dame, because people don't know what the ACC is going to do. People don't know if they're going to make $13 million or $18 million. So it says estimated $13 million. And then it says estimated next to the $15 million, because they don't know how many Big Ten teams Notre Dame's going to add to their schedule. But at the end of the day, even if they add those Big Ten teams up, it still comes up to you're only getting paid for 6 home games to NBC. Now you're going to make more money for those 6 games, because they look at the viewership at 13 million with Ohio State and say, you know what, we like that better than 2.8 million with Wake Forest.
Man, all right. Here's what I need to do. I need to do more research, because I am not understanding this dynamic to be the way you're presenting it. So I would like to do more research. If you want to email me, a link, if you have a resource on this, because I'm interested, and it's not exactly the way I was understanding these numbers. If you have anything you could send me, I appreciate it.
I have an assistant athletic director in a Big Ten school who broke it all down for me. That's why I know so much about it. But I mean, just common sense tells you, how much do you want NBC to pay Notre Dame for 6 home games? How much do you want them to pay? 90 million? How can they do that? They only put 6 games on the TV. That's only so many advertisers.
Yeah.
Now, if you want, you see what I'm saying? They're only getting half the product. They're getting the whole Big Ten. They're getting all 12 weeks.
Yeah.
All the games, all the advertisers, everything that goes along with 12 weeks of football, where Notre Dame's only given NBC 6 weeks of football. So they get half the advertisers. Everything's in half. And that's exactly where they're at. they can make an estimated $50 million, which is half of what the Big Ten and SEC is going to make for giving them 12 weeks. I mean, it's just math. I mean, I know I was confused too, but we said, hey, just look at the math. Okay, 6 games go to NBC from Notre Dame. 12 games go to NBC from Ohio State. Who should get paid more?
Geez. All right. Let me do more research on this because now it's going to bug me. So let me look into that more.
One more quick thing. You said, well, of course it would be better if they joined the Big Ten. Here, NBC would rip up to 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is, till they $1 million. Sure, rip it up. Let's get you into the Big Ten. Here's you come to the meeting. Rutgers gets their check for 90. Notre Dame gets their check for 90. Plus, you automatically get the 21 for the playoffs. And then hopefully Notre Dame's smooth enough to keep the $6 million bonus pay. Although I think that would go away once they got to the $21 million for the automatic playoff through the Big Ten. But that's what I mean by they're slow walking them into the Big Ten. They want to have them play Big Ten teams when this new contract comes up, and from there, they're going to turn to Notre Dame and say, look, instead of $50 million for the next 4 years playing these Big Ten teams, why don't you just join and pick up the $115 million? I mean, you already play 6 Big Ten teams. I mean, here, real quick, think about independence, John. What is independence for Notre Dame? Notre Dame gave away half their schedule to the ACC so they would take the Olympic sports. Okay, fine. We'll give you 6 games, 5 or 6 games, and then you have to take our Olympic sports so they have people they can play. So half their schedule is not even independent anymore. It's signed on with the ACC. Okay, 3 games. Everybody gets to pick 3 games. Okay, Ohio State, Michigan, that you could play anybody you want. Right? Michigan plays UNLV, Cal State, whatever. They get to play 3 cupcakes. So if Notre Dame was in a conference, they would give up they would still get their 3 cupcakes. Okay, so Notre Dame is given 6 games to the ACC. They still get to play their 3 cupcakes. Conferences won't take that away. So Notre Dame really is independent for 3 games a year because they can still pick 3 games even if they join a conference. And they gave the 6 games to the ACC. So if Notre Dame is saying, we want to be independent. Now, this is athletic director is explaining this to me. And so Notre Dame is staying independent for 3 games that they get to pick where they would have to give it to the conference if they join the conference. So you see what I'm saying? So if they join the Big Ten, they'd have to play 9 conferences. Then there's 3 cupcakes. Well, they got to play 6 conference games in the ACC. Then they still get their so for 3 games a year.
I can't do it anymore, man. I can't do it anymore. I'm too slow with math. It's not probably you. I'm so bad at math, but you're like 15 million here, 100 million there, 50 there. And then if we have 6 over here and 5 over here, and then you add 4, and then you get this. I can't keep up, dude. My brain's too slow. I can't do it. The eclipse has landed early. The eclipse has hit early. My brain's melting. I can't do the math. I can't do the math.
Super easy. Notre Dame is getting paid for 6 home games from NBC.
Right.
And they're getting paid for 5 home games to ACC.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how it's split up like that, and they're not making as much as the Big Ten and the SEC.
Man.
That's as easy as it gets. So your question, would it be better to join the Big Ten? Sure it would, because now they're going to get paid for all 12 games.
Yeah.
Not just 6.
Man. All right. I got to look more into this. But I appreciate
buddy. Oh, you know what? I'll send something to you. Let me talk to the guys I talked to in the athletic department. See, is it okay if I send this to? And if they okay it, I'll just redact the school and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
whatever. I'd love to look at it, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Am I the only one? Am I the only one? Listen, you guys, I'm bad at math. I'm good with words, and I'm bad with math. I'm Zach Galifianakis with the equations running all over. You know that meme, that gif of Zach Galifianakis doing the math and all the equations are coming in and he's all confused? Shit. I need to do more research because that one, there's no way I could keep up. Bro, my brain's fried. All right. My brain's fried after that. I just can't. I don't have the capacity to keep up with all those twists and turns with the numbers. I can't do it. Holy crap. All right. I need to go let my brain chill out before I go zap my eyeballs front yard looking at a cloudy the sun's gone or something. All right. That was wild. We got a lot going on there. I got to figure out what the right numbers are. Thank you, everybody, for the calls, the chats, the everything, man, the donations. I'm not kidding. Bro, my brain is fried. No, I'm not going to call Mark, Mike. Mark, I love, and he works very hard, but there's always an anti-Notre Dame angle. And it's never when I'm with them. It's always when I'm not with them. And then there's an anti-Notre Dame angle, but it's never when I'm on. So whatever. Maybe everybody I look at has different numbers on this. That's the other problem. Everybody's YouTube video you pull up has different numbers they're going off of. I thought this shit was done. But now every time I look, somebody's piece of numbers they're going off of. I love Mark. Mark is a good person. I like doing shows with Mark. But I don't think he likes Notre Dame. There's always a little anti-Notre Dame in there. This blew my brain out. I can't handle it. It blew my brain out. I don't have the capacity. So I need to go decompress my brain because I can't make that all make sense. I love Mark, but he takes shots at my Irish a lot. And some of them are subtle. Some of them are nuanced. He's good at it. And it gets to me sometimes. He's good at what he does. All right, I'm going to go blow my eyeballs out to match my brain by watching this eclipse. My brain's already exploded. And then at 2:00, my eyes are going to explode. This is going to be the end. I'm out of here. I got to go decompress. This was the most my brain's ever processed numbers on